This is the Soundfackery podcast from Soundfackery Productions. Doing it wrong, but doing it anyway.
Hello and welcome to the Soundfackery podcast, the podcast about sound, music, creativity and collaboration. We're your hosts, Steve Kilpatrick, aka Soundfackery, and Anikó and Steve, aka Coco Vocals.
Hi, everyone. We are so excited today to have the amazing Chandra Free. Chandra Free is an artist and creator, best known for her own humorous, dark graphic novel series, The God Machine, and has worked on comic projects such as Fraggle Rock, John Carpenter's Tales for a Halloween Night, The Graphic Canon, and Mice Templar. Yes, you did hear right. It is Mice Templar. You'll have to tell us about that in a minute. In addition to her comics work, she is a character designer, storyboard artist, and co-owner of her own comic company, Machina Corpse. We are so excited to have you, Chandra.
Hi, Chandra.
Hello.
Hi. So that's a pretty in-depth description of some of your projects, but how would you describe what you do to somebody who doesn't know your work?
So I'm largely a comics creator. My style is pretty vivid in color, and sometimes my figures are elongated, and I'm just like playing with all sorts of things like abstractions and like cartooniness and like some influences of anime, like all these things are like boiled together to form my style. And sometimes I collaborate with other people and change it up for whatever the project calls for. Some people compare me to Tim Burton, but that's an awful comparison.
Why is that awful?
I don't exactly like his drawings very much.
Don't sugarcoat it, Chandra.
I
Tell us what you really think.
I think they're a little crude, but I mean, like, there's a charm to his drawings too, but I feel that my stuff is more rendered, more complete. But I think because I fall under sometimes the Gothic umbrella, that people want to compare something that is easy pop culture reference, and Tim Burton is always the comparison right there. So I understand it. I'm not a fan of it.
It is always an awful moment when you get the comparison to somebody you don't really feel. I've had that myself with sometimes with the music, and you go, oh, great. Thanks.
Oh, right. It's like you want to, like, because that person either identifies with that music or they like really like it or they like Tim Burton or whatever, and you're trying to be like, but I don't really like this person as much. Or, I'll say this about Tim Burton. I love early Tim Burton 80s and 90s movies quite a bit. His newer stuff is not my favorite at all. So he lost his soul, but you know what? He's making money, and I can't fault the man for that. So like, he's living the dream. So good for him.
Yeah, I wondered what it is that people compare, because you have a very I want to say sort of Baroque style almost to your line and things like that. Is it that aspect that people maybe identify? I
think it's the elongated figures.
Right. That makes sense.
Maybe sometimes the magical colors that sometimes show up in his stuff also mirrors in mine as well. But I think mine's more vibrant, to be honest.
It's certainly colorful. I'm just looking at some of your stuff. So I want to know, like, what is Mice Templar?
Okay, so I did some alternate coloring on the covers, the last push of Mice Templar and like the final cover, and that was such a wonderful experience because I just did colors for Victor Santos's line art. Every so often I get to play in other people's worlds, and that's always interesting to color someone else's lines. Like I did that for Drew Roush's book, Sullengrey. I get to put my own style and twist into like their worlds. It's a different kind of collaboration than, say, writer and artist collaboration. It's fun, and I love playing with colors quite a bit.
As you mentioned, the writer collaboration, how we sort of crossed paths was your work with Mike Sizemore for Tales for a Halloween Night and the story Cast. Could you tell me a little bit about that collaboration?
So that was really fun. Like I met Mike at one of the conventions, New York Comic-Con, I think, or was it San Diego? I can't tell anymore. It's been a million years anyways, right?
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with Mike about like the lead protagonist. She was just a regular like white girl. And I'm like, why do we have to have like a white girl? Like, why is it always got to be white? It's like, I wanted to have like this punk rock black girl to just kind of like give it a different feel and give it a different kind of thing. And he was so accepting, and so was Sandy King, the producer and director of Storm King Comics. They loved the idea and like just giving me some freedom to just kind of inject a little bit more like inclusivity into the book. Well, the short story. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's important, and I'm trying to incorporate this more into, as I go forward in my own projects, inclusivity and like including like more diverse casts, so people have something to look at that resembles themselves, where mm-hmm. it's not always like that. So I found that important, and that collaboration with Mike, that he was just like, oh yeah, that's great idea. No problem. And it's mm-hmm. like, cool. Those little tiny things mean the world to me when your collaborator is so responsive to your own ideas and are on board with the same ideals. I hadn't worked with a writer in a while, and it was just, I got to do my favorite thing, which is do teenagers and bloody gore.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because it's quite a lovely contrast. You have your style is it's very different to anybody else in that collection. A sort of a grimier look to a lot of the pieces, and yours is very vibrant and colourful, and on the one hand almost looks innocent, and then you get into some serious gore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I love playing around with those types of things. Like, it's like, oh, it's just this cute stylized comic, and then all of a sudden it hits you with like a decapitation and blood everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's so much fun to play with that and play in that kind of world. And like everybody else in the book did more of a realism, right? Mm. And I like being the oddball of the group, yeah. Because you get to be more expressive, I think, when you have a more stylized style. Can
I just interject in here? I just for people who are listening, if I may describe your look in a little way. Chandra is wearing vibrantly bright red glasses, and her hair is vibrantly bright bluey red. And she's wearing a Spellman mortuary shirt that says funerals, burials, and rites. Right. So she walks the walk as well as talks the talks and draws the draws.
Yeah.
If you will, draws the drawings. It's so much fun that you get to play with that in your own look as well.
Yeah. Usually I'm dolled up for these types of things. I'm a little lo-fi today. Mm-hmm. I love playing with makeup and things like that. Like in my older age, like makeup's fun and like colorful and expressive. And I'm drawn big eyebrows, kind of a drag look, so to speak. Like, like amplify everything. Of course, like it's kind of like my goth roots too, like I'm pulling from that, and I'm pulling from like just, I do walk the walk.
Yeah. I love, actually, and I was thinking about this, the eye makeup on a lot of your characters as well, and also in the photographs I've seen of you. I was in a band for, I don't know, about 5 years. It was very busy in the goth scene in the UK, and straight away I recognize that sort of style.
It takes time, I bet.
I don't even comb my hair.
Makeup takes a long time, but it's like an art. It really is, because it's not easy. Yeah. I'm still trying to master it after like all these years, like about 20 years of doing makeup for myself. Like out of high school, I finally started doing makeup and like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. It's like, no, I had no idea what I was doing. And I still don't. So.
But it's interesting to think that you're kind of walk around like you're a walking work of art, a 3D work of art that's kind of mirrored in your art
and
as well.
something like I don't know if anybody like is also a comic artist and they go to used to go to conventions and will go to conventions in the future, hopefully. One of the things that I always like to do was stand out from the crowd and like be my own person. And like when I talk to those publishers that might be publishing me in the future, I want to make an impression. So I always have like my uniform, which is always like something elevated, and like my makeup done and like my hair done and like all these things, all these elements. I wanted to make an impression. I wanted to almost be a brand. And I kind of am a brand. So you can associate me and my artwork were very much the same thing in a lot of ways. So, you know, when you say walk the walk kind of thing, like, yeah, I'm doing it. I do it in my art. I do it in my daily. So even when I'm not going out.
Yeah. I mean, it's so intertwined with that music scene. I mean, we were endorsed by, I don't know if this is a UK brand, but we were endorsed by Illustrator.
Oh, okay.
It was ironic because I'm terrible. I'd never done makeup before. I was in this band. And
oh my Lord.
the drummer had to put it on me every show. He was excellent at makeup, but I was terrible. I did it myself once and he was like, oh, come here. Let me do this for you. From your art, I'm imagining you a much more modern member of the goth scene. My
goth days were in the 2000s. And so that's a big industrial, synth pop kind of stuff. Your Covenant, your Iris, your Be Born Benton, and, like apocalyptic berserk. Yeah, there we go. I think I said that right. And so like I used to actually go to the goth clubs and I'd go dancing, and in Orlando, Florida, of all places, which we had the best scene, which sounds ludicrous, but it's true.
It does. It must have been hot.
Right. Well, that's why you just don't wear as much clothing. But pound on the makeup, right?
Right.
Yeah, we'd go and see people like VNV Nation and One, and like we'd just, we'd participate in that. Assemblage 23 would come to town. Wolfsheim. These bands, like it's not the traditional goth of the 80s, obviously. Though I'm not opposed to that music either, because I love my roots pretty much, Even in my book, The God Machine, I pay tribute to some of those bands like Bauhaus and Susie and the Banshees, and, all sorts of stuff going on. Like music just flows through me, and is like I miss dancing so much.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you on that one.
I miss it so much. I moved from Orlando to New York City, and you'd be surprised, but the scene isn't as good up there, because I guess everybody's a happy goth because they've got everything they want. When you're in Orlando, Florida, you're grumpy, and of course you're more drenched in that darkness and whatnot, because everything's bright and sunny and awful. But no, it's so strange. Like they were more interested in the older scene music, and which was great. And I also loved going out to that type of stuff. But I severely missed like new bands and stuff like that. And I don't even know if like things are just like melting away to newer music. But the industrial scene seems very holding on by a thread in some ways.
Yeah.
And I try to discover some new bands, like Cold Cave is bringing back a more older school sound. And it's like, oh, this could have been made in the 80s, but now it's just music from now, and it's like very gorgeous stuff.
Go on, if we push you to it, tell us what your favorite band is.
Depeche Mode, hands down. I
All
love
right.
them, and they're still making music, baby. Yay!
Well, do you listen to it a lot when you're creating your art? Is that something that is really important to you?
Oh, absolutely. Music just powers my art completely. It depends on where I'm at mentally, like what I want to listen to, because I can sometimes I'm lazy and I'll go to YouTube and I'll put on those chill hop things with the raccoon or the girl playing, doing her homework. That's great background music if I'm really concentrating. However, if I'm getting into a comic page, I need something that's driving and emotional and whatnot. I just need something that I can just like a cat is solar powered,
Yeah.
They hang out in windows and they get their energy from the sun. I'm very much the same way. Put those headphones on me and I am music powered. And things like Mr. Kitty is a fun little band. He does kind of this, I wouldn't say dark wave, but I guess it's kind of those old school sensibilities with new school and witch house music. And oh my God, I love witch house. I didn't think I was going to, because oh no, yet another genre.
You know what? I think you've caught me there. Can you tell us a bit about Witch House?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Sorry.
Okay, so it's kind of like house music, but it's kind of dark and brooding. It's a lot of synth music, and sometimes the vocals are a little howling, a little screechy sometimes, not always, because sometimes it can be very melodic and whatnot. But Mr. Kitty is probably a very good example of that, because Mr. Kitty transforms, I think his pronouns are he, him, his. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he goes from a masculine, melodic singing voice to this high-pitched woman-esque voice. And it's really interesting, this dichotomy of sexes going into this band that's essentially one person. Witch House is definitely something, if you like goth, synth, and house music, I think it's a good blend of these things.
Nice.
Sidewalks and Skeletons is another band from in the Witch House group. But for Mr. Kitty, he's just interesting. One of his songs, After Dark, I was just obsessed with, and I drew this picture, one of my favorite illustrations I've done, and I just had that one song on loop. I felt like I was possessed. I don't believe in possession, but in order to describe something, I was possessed by the music, to just listen to that song and just be enriched in that emotion and pour it all into this piece of artwork I was working on. And I felt like I was going insane, but it was also such a wonderful process too. And it's only happened a couple of times where I'll just play things over and over again, like Gary Newman's Hybrid CD disc number 2. I listened to all those songs, which are callbacks to Tubeway Army, only they're more modernized, Our Friends Electric and Cars and ME. He made them into these synthy kind of dirty electronic, almost rock ballads, and I was just possessed with that, and I was just oh, draw, I must draw to this. It's oh, love it when music hits just right, and you just evokes emotion, and it's you're just overflowing with the music and the art at the same time.
Sounds like you go into I get this when I'm dancing. You get this sense of being kind of in a trance. where you're
Yes.
sort of in like a zone and you're sort of like in an elevated state, and things
Right.
kind of flow through you, and then it makes things really quite easy.
Absolutely.
Do you ever get to the end of a page and you've not really been conscious of doing it and then do a little punch in the air at the end? Wow, I am
Air
awesome.
punch.
I wish. Sometimes, like, with just like comic pages, it's a little bit difficult because it's a lot of thinking. Except that I did do a couple of really interesting pages that did take me by surprise. Like, oh, this is so good. This is why I do comics. And then other times it's like, oh my God, why do I do comics? It's a very conscious effort of like when you're making a comic page and you've put all this work in, but you're like, oh my God, thank you. I'm so glad that I finished it. Now I can go to the next and the next and the next and the next. And it's a lot of work. It's hard work.
Does it feel a little bit like you're birthing something at every moment? Like a vocation, like you're drawn to do it, you have to do it, but it's also like takes so much out of you.
So I teeter on this a lot because it's like I have a story that I want to tell, mainly the God Machine, and that's my big thing. I'm compelled to tell my story. It's a story that I've held on to for too many years, since I was 19 years old. I need to tell the story. I need to reach people and tell them this, and I need to show them this. I need to do these things. And then there's other times like, oh, I love doing comics with other people as long as it's short and sweet, because it's a lot of work. And at that point, I'm doing something for somebody else. Then it becomes like, oh, will they see this detail and call me out on this or whatever? Like, that's a little bit of the downside of collaborating. But I've never had that problem. Like, I just recently did a line art, which is just the line art, no coloring, no anything else, just my lines. And I was like, me and the writer were going really well together, and he's like, oh, could you do this little thing? It's like, no big deal, It was like, oh, I must produce the best page, and like I keep on going further and further, like must produce the best work I've ever done. And then at some point you're like, I'm broken, I don't know if I'm doing the best I can do. The first graphic novel I did, The God Machine, by myself, like I was crying sometimes because there's deadlines and there's like, you push yourself every single day to do these things, and it literally hurts. It's emotional and it drains. And that's why sometimes I'm like, why did I choose comics? And then I remember I want to tell stories. I want to show my art. I want to touch other people's lives. And I've actually done so. That first graphic novel, like I've had people come over to me and tell me like, you got me through like my wife's cancer and her death. Like those first words in your pages like moved me to tears. Like you got me, you understood. And this other person was in a car accident, lost their teeth, lost their friends. Their life was just destroyed. And they discovered my book at the Barnes & Noble here in the States. And they would read a little bit of it every time they'd go in there. And then they'd read a little bit and they'd read a little bit. And it got them through their depression and their sadness and probably like maybe suicide, like they didn't do it. It got them through it. And they finally got to purchase the book directly from me. And they were like giddy and they were crying, and it was just such an emotional moment, and I like had to fight back tears. And then this other girl told me that she and her fiance used to read the book together. They loved it, and then he died. I don't know how, but she reads it to his grave. I was so moved. I actually really cried, and we like hugged each other. When you make an impact, it motivates, it propels you forward to like create and, be an inspiration or be that voice that like, yeah, I understand what you're going through. Here's my story, and let's have a fantastical like journey through everything. And like, did I entertain you? Did I get you through something? Like something to that effect. Like that's what motivates me on another level. Because if it weren't for that, and if it weren't for the fact that I have a story to tell, it's like, this is bonkers. What the fuck am I doing? Like comics make no sense because they don't pay well. They time involved, and it's a labor of love. And like every time someone asks me like, so what do I need to know about going into comics, and I always tell them, don't do it unless you love this, because that's the only way you're going to be rewarded. Comics will break your heart, as Jack Kirby said. It'll break you, it'll hurt you, and it's that love that will keep you in it, or stupidity, or both,
Sounds a lot like courage to me as well, that you have to kind of forge ahead and just follow your heart, because it's the thing that draws you, and that you have to break through all these self-doubts. I mean, we always talk about how artists have all these imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, am I good enough? And, and you still have to break through it and to continue your art. And
do it wrong, but do it anyway.
Yeah, we have a motto: do it wrong, but do it anyway.
Yeah,
kind of frees you up.
That's not a bad motto. That's really good. Because the imposter syndrome is real.
It totally is.
And like, if you have that kind of mantra, like just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You love it. You'll get better no matter what. As long as you're open to growing and changing, and the little bit of hurt that goes in with learning things. But like, as long as you're open to that, and you're okay with what might seem like a failure to you, but could be a success to everybody else around you, you're going to do fine. Yeah. Because you can't give up. You can't let algorithms online, play with your head. Like, you're not getting enough likes, you're not getting this, you're not, or you're not getting enough praise, or you look at somebody else and you're like, fuck, I can't do it as good as them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have your own unique voice, your own unique vision. We're all sharing similar traits within the art world, and we all do similar things, but sometimes it's the way you do it that's different from other people. Yeah. It's just like, people who covet their movie ideas or their comic ideas or whatever, like, I can't let anybody know about this. Well, there's 100 other people that have come up with the same idea as you. But it's how you do it that's going to be the difference. Yeah. Your idea isn't all that special, but you possibly are.
I'd like to ask if you could elaborate a little and tell us a little bit more about the God Machine.
So my elevator pitch is, and by the way, anybody that's aspiring to be a person at conventions selling your book, always have a pitch. 30 seconds, or something to that effect. Just tell them what it is. Anyways, enough of the soapbox. Let's get going. All right. So The God Machine is a story about a young man named Guy Salvatore, who is going through a really difficult time in his life. His girlfriend just recently died, and now he's starting to see monsters and things, and he's questioning what's real and what's not. Until one night, a mysterious man comes to him and tells him that his girlfriend is floating in and out of dream worlds and is actually alive. So now it's up to Guy to go and save her. But gods are in the way, and is this actually happening is in the way. Like, it's a torrid little tale of an angsty teen who just doesn't have it all together. It's depression. It's like, it's the surreal. It's the unusual. Like, they're freaking monsters. Is he going crazy or is he not? And the story I wanted to tell is that something that touched me personally, which was my depression. I didn't exactly lose somebody, but every day it felt like a funeral. Like something was missing, and I wanted to convey, stages of grief within Guy's story, and I wanted to play in a horror realm of, monsters and, disturbing imagery and whatnot, because it's all part of it in a way. But then there's that promise that things are going to get better. It's an ongoing story, and I'm relaunching the book come March, and it's going to be a Kickstarter to reprint the out-of-print edition of The God Machine, but make it better. I'm pretty much I've rewrote the entire book to accommodate for today's language, because it's very 2000s, and 2000s was about shock humor and whatnot. So I'm adding a little bit more grounding and more characterization, because I've grown as a storyteller. I've changed, and I've got a better way of saying things now, and it's all reflected right there. And I have more pages, extended scenes, and corrected artwork, and I'm correcting all the little things that young 20-something Chan did, and I'm trying to make it much better and more in tune with the second book that will happen afterwards. It's just a matter of relaunching the series, because it's been a decade since it's been printed. It's not all doom and gloom. There's humor and funniness within this. There's the gods, good god and evil god, and their little familiars, Angel Kitty and Devil Kitty, that are all populating this world. And also sometimes the monsters are kind of silly too. So it's light and dark put together. Lots of goth kids too, and lots of goth fashion and whatnot. But I would like to think that it's a little bit more universal, but also niche as well. So
sounds like it's really important, deals with really important topics.
Yeah.
Sounds really exciting in terms of being able to read something new and renewed.
Renewed, yes.
Renewed, yeah.
So I've renamed the book. It's The God Machine Revision. It's just a good way of reintroducing it. It is volume 1 still, but it's revision. There's some revisions going on here.
Sounds fascinating.
Is there anything that people should be looking out for in particular with the Kickstarter?
Yes. So as of this recording, it will be launching on March 9th. thegodmachine.org will be the launching place to take you to that Kickstarter page. We need all the help we can get to make it happen, from bothering your friends to your family members to the internet and whatnot. We need your help getting the word out so we can make this book happen. And we also have this really awesome Kickstarter video that we've been working on. It should be an awesome video. We have Venture Brothers' own James Urbaniak voicing one of the kitties, and we have Toonami's Dana Swanson voicing Angel Kitty. I was so worried because I'm also in the video. I've got these two extremely good voice actors who are charismatic and so good at what they do, and then here I am talking about my vision, and it's I think I kind of hold my own, so that's always nice. But I have some crossover appeal with Venture Brothers fans, because I used to do a lot of Venture Brothers artwork, and my favorite show, and I'm friends with the creators of the show, which actually Doc Hammer, one of the co-creators, wrote the foreword for the original God Machine. I'm bringing back that foreword again because it's so good. And just, it's very monumental in a lot of ways. And so, there's some crossover appeal, and it's I got James Urbaniak. That's my buddy. He's it's like having Dr. Venture voice one of the kitties pretty much, and it literally is that. And I'm excited to share. And my partner / boyfriend / co-owner of Machina Corpse is animating it, Stephen Emond. I'm doing all the assets for him so he can put it all together.
People who've never been involved in a Kickstarter probably don't realize just how much investment and how much work is involved.
Yeah. it's been months and months and months in the, planning a Kickstarter. Kickstarter's not fun. It's like a full-time job.
Yeah.
We're getting Taylor Esposito, we're getting him to re-letter the book. So we're having another level of polish onto it. Phil Balsman did the logo for us, brand new logo. We did get that ahead of time because it looks good with the campaign and whatnot. So that did come out of our pockets, but it looks so good. It's like
it's an investment, isn't it?
It really is, and it's all about that polish and like repackaging and all that. It literally is an investment.
I think it goes without saying that would be one of your personal recommendations for today. But
absolutely,
and mine too. But do you have any recommendations that you really feel people listening should just run out and read, listen to?
Absolutely. So if you're a music fan and you love emo culture, I know it's a little bit of a throwback right there. My partner, Mr. Steve Emond, has his own book, Emo Boy from the 2000s, up on Webtoons. You can also find his new surreal comic, Have Heart, at haveheartcomic.com, or you can find him on Webtoons or Tapas. That's a fun little comic. There was something else. You can always find me at Spooky Chan almost anywhere online. Yep. That's always good. And some music recommendations. If you like alternative 80s into the very early 90s music, there's Sunday Night Vinyl, which is out of Orlando, but you can find it online. That's DJ'd by Eric Dennison, and that's a old program that's now found new life online. There's this wonderful app called Radio, and that I don't know how many O's, but it's like radio.com. And if you want to listen to music from almost any decade in any part of the world, you can select that country, like Japan, and choose the 30s, and you can listen to Japanese music in the 30s, and it's the coolest thing ever. Ever. I love it so much because it's I am such a nerd for music. We didn't get into it, but I grew up with music in my household. My first concert was Paul McCartney when I was in the second grade.
Nice.
And that was with Linda, that kind of thing. And I've seen B-52s and blah, 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 all sorts of things. But music has always been a part of my life, from classical to, oldies at that time when I was younger, to 80s to now. I'm still discovering new things, but radio is one of those great little places to start discovering other music, and it's powered by people, and contributing those decade type things and just forming a community there. I love it. So those are my big recommendations at the moment.
We'll link as many of those as we can. We know we can find you at
spookychan.com is my normal hub.
You're also on Twitter, I've seen.
I am definitely on Twitter.
Yeah. You share some of your art on Instagram as well, don't you?
That I do. My Instagram is a little bit mixed of life and art together. I'm going to be releasing some covers of some album covers that I was just recently commissioned for an Italian band.
Oh, nice.
I would try to say their name, but I would totally screw it up. But I did some cover artwork for Miss FD. And oh my goodness. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much.
So much fun to have
really
you.
good.
Thank you for sharing.
It's very inspiring. Loved hearing about your story, and best of luck with the Kickstarter.
Oh, thank you. And I would be remiss to say my comic book company at Machina Corpse and machinacorpse.com. Please check us out. And also at The God Machine on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, and do you have anything else you want to plug?
Oh, yes. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/SpookyChan. And I do a lot of behind-the-scenes God Machine stuff there.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
I love watching stuff like that.
Well, we'll go through and we'll link as many of those as we can.
Thank you.
Where can we find you, Anikó?
I'm at cocovocals.com and at at Coco Vocals on Twitter.
I'm at Soundfackery and soundfackeryproductions.com. Thanks again to Chandra Free, Spooky Chan, and I hope we chat to you again.
Great to have you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.